thanks for being here, sisters and brothers, this afternoon. If you need to give that praise to Brother Howard Johnson. In case you don't know who Brother Howard Johnson is, let me just give you a few biographical details about Brother Howard, the speaker this afternoon. Brother Howard D. Johnson is a teacher and academic of over 30 years of knowledge and experience in racism and black studies, which are also known as Africana studies. He's the author of the handbook. We're here to discuss and go through the racism handbook for people classified as black. His race and black studies education began in the 1980s, studying the books Black People in the British Empire, Malcolm X and Afro-American History, and The Souls of Black Folk. Later, intensive studies of the books of Dr. Amos Wilson, Mama Frances Cress Welsing, Professor Charles Mills, Professor David Gilmour, Professor Derek Bell, and Professor Tommy Curry. In the early 1980s, in a family tradition, he became a musician and composer. In 2003, he graduated from the University of Surrey, receiving Bachelor of Music honours. And since the 2000s, Brother Howard's been active in the black community for over 20 years. In 2015, he studied whiteness studies at University College London, and he teaches GCSE English literature and language in secondary school. He's been teaching the subject since 2004. As a social justice advocate, Brother Howard is deeply committed to teaching the centrality of race and the making of the modern world. He therefore promotes what he calls racial literacy and race education. Let me just say a bit about the book itself. This has been a labour of love that Brother Howard has been working on for several years, meticulously working hard. And it's his gift to the African community, not only here in the UK, but the African world. And I certainly would say it's a book every African in the UK, at the very least, should have a copy of this book in terms of enhancing our racial literacy. So, sisters and brothers, I give you Brother Howard Dean Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you. And, thank you so much for that, Brother Olatunji. And I'd just like to say that Brother Olatunji said it was a labour of love, and it certainly was, because when I wrote the book, when you write a book, you need an editor. Okay? You can write one without, but good luck with that. It's really hard. So guess who was helping me to edit? Brother Olatunji helped me to edit the book. So he has a breadth of knowledge as well. Just to look through the book and to say, look, why are you saying this? Why are you doing that? And so on. And it's all in the foreword. And it's really, that was a necessary thing to do, to get another perspective on how you're going to approach a particular subject. For example, the chapter on racism was too long. He said, it's too long. You've got to cut it up into different pieces, and perhaps you should leave that out and leave in. All that was fundamentally good advice to be able to do the book. All right, you just need to step back from it, and that was really, really good to have. So I'm very grateful for that, Olatunji. And it's not as if he's got huge amounts of time on his hand as a radio presenter. He hasn't. So great. I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful indeed.
Just to say, I don't want to downplay what Brother Howard just said, but my role primarily was that Brother Howard got a serious body of work, and my role was just to try and make sure it was clear. Because at the end of the day, there's no point having a book which is good, but people can't get into, can't grasp, can't understand. So all I was trying to say was to Brother Howard was that actually, as long as this is clear, it's going to be good, because it's so necessary and so important. Yes. There's nothing out there like this book anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. So for me, the mission was to ensure that anybody of any reading level can grasp it and understand it. That's the mission we were going forward, and I think Brother Howard has achieved that as well. So very much.
Thank you so much, Olatunji, and that was, it's necessary. I remember you telling me that you've got to be clear. You don't have time for not being clear. So so that was the process then. I'm very grateful to have him here today. It's wonderful. It's just amazing. So look, I did say earlier that I'm going to reduce the lecture, and then we'll extend the Q&A, and I'm sure other people will come. I did say in the promotion leaflets and things that I'll talk a little bit about the reproduction of racism. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but I won't do the whole lot, all right? And then we can go into questions and answers and talk about things that we think is relevant, that we need to discuss. So let's just talk about this idea quickly of the reproduction of racism. What do I mean by that? Well, we often talk about racism just being in society. But this term reproduction tends to mean something a bit deeper. It means that racism is reproducing itself all the time.
Yes.
You see? It's not that it's just there and then maybe it goes, but it's being reproduced day in, day out, month, year, generation after generation. That's the reproduction of racism. And when I was thinking about how I'm going to write this up, I realised very soon that you can actually stick your pin anywhere in black modern history and find the reproduction of racism. Doesn't matter where we are. You can stick it literally, you can close your eyes and stick it in anywhere and you'll find the reproduction of racism. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the reproduction of racism in terms of Obama, the first black president, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about Trump, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about China's intervention into Africa, because then we can make the connections ourselves. But I won't make it too long, I promise you. So first of all, as I said, when we talk about reproduction, we're talking about the idea that something is being reproduced. It's mutating, it's changing in order to survive.
Yes.
That's the first process there. When I talk about China, I just want to say a few things quickly there when I get into it deeper. I just need a preface. When you study China's intervention into Africa, there's huge amounts of stuff on it. And it's possible to have at least three types of interpretation of that. One, that China is just doing its economic advance. We live in a capitalist society. It's just advancing capitalistically. And therefore, we're seeing China's intervention into Africa economically. And that really means we're looking at it through a Marxist lens, if you've heard of Karl Marx. The other thing is to say, which is my position, that race is running this entire planet. I believe what W.E. Du Bois said, one of our greatest African-American intellectuals, that the problem of the 20th century, he said in 1930, is going to be the problem of the colour line, the distance and the relationship between the lighter colours and the darker colours. He said that in 1930, that the problem of the 20th century would be race. We're now in the 21st century, and clearly the problem on this planet is race. So I struggle myself to see the world through economic eyes. I could never be a Marxist, although I know the importance of it in our history. So my understanding of China into Africa is through the lens of race. There is another interpretation that's important as well, which is that, yes, China's following on its capitalistic development, but one day it'll get back to the way it used to treat black people, and it's just developing. Of course, when it develops and grounds itself in the world as the power struggle of the planet, then of course it'll go back to treating black people in the revolutionary way that it apparently did in the 60s and during the anti-colonial struggles. There's that interpretation, all right? And you can study those, but my one today is going to be based on race. Okay, so I'm going to stick my pin now into the idea of where reproduction comes from. Let's start in 1997. In 1997, the American government came out with a document called the Project for the New American Century. And in that project, it was going to be, they were sure that they were going to make sure that American interests would dominate the planet, that it would make massive investments and expenditure right around the world to expand its military complex, and that it would frontally attack any nation that worked against its interest. That was the project for the New American Century in 97. And then, of course, we had George Bush, who was a war president. I never forget, he said, "I'm a war president." And we know what happened there. Let's cut a bit of that history out. And then we go from Bush to Obama. Let's talk a little bit about Obama. When Obama was elected, I don't know about you, but I felt slightly different. I don't know if you remember that. I felt slightly different, that this black man was elected, and it sent shockwaves across the United States and around the world, that for the first time, perhaps America could possibly be post-racial.
Yes.
Even though we all know what racism's like, and we've got huge amounts of history to show that racism is going to be reproduced, even though we have this symbol
Yes.
of a black man. Okay, what we can't go into all of it, but essentially he didn't do much for black people. Actually nothing for black people. And even though he wasn't a war president, he committed more drone strikes than the war president, which was Bush. He committed himself to 506 drone strikes, again not against non-white people, and killed up to 500 civilians.
Did you say non-white people?
Sorry?
Did you say non-white people?
Yes. The reason I say that, because black and other non-whites.
I thought it was just whites.
Black. No. He caused a lot of death and destruction on non-white people. But the point is that he didn't really have a black agenda. I don't know if we remember that. He didn't have a black agenda, and he was asked about a black agenda, and he said, "Well, I don't have an. I'm a president for the people."
The rising tide.
Yes,
All boots.
exactly. I'm a president for the people. But if you're the president of the people, then you should be for the Latinos, you should be for the Asians, you should be for the whites, and you most certainly should be for the people at the bottom of the economic ladder. And yet we know that he didn't really stick his neck out for black people. He was a corporate Democrat. That's what he was. So in a sense, that project, the project for the American advancement on the planet, was seen through the deliberations of the president of Obama's presidency. Okay, that's one aspect there. Now, let's move forward a little bit. We know who comes after Obama, don't we? The amazing Donald Trump. The amazing Donald Trump. Obama, because he was a corporate president, he was a corporate Democrat, and most of what he did was just basically look after money. You see? Just look after money interest around the country and the world. So when Trump came into office, he came in and was able to continue the reproduction of racism. I never forget when I first heard him speak, how he was spewing racism. The things that you weren't allowed to say, Trump was saying again. It was incredible. We know they were thinking those things, but suddenly this man was standing on the podium and saying racist things, reproducing racism that whites thought, well, you know, we've got to at least not say those things, the racist whites. So what did he do? Well, first of all, as I said, he introduced the language of racism, that it was popular. You could speak about how you feel about other non-whites in racial terms. So, Trump put that out. Second election, what did he do? He helped to resurface fascism. So let's talk a little bit about fascism. Fascism, for black people, we're familiar with fascism. We're familiar with it. It's not nothing new for us. Apartheid, state, fascism for black people. The long years of Jim Crow in the United States, fascism for black people. So it's not something that's strange to us.
Oh, is that what fascism is? Apartheid, like that? Because I've always heard this word fascism, but I don't really know what it means in that. So fascism is like apartheid.
I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting
so I don't really know what.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to break it down for you. No problem. So, the first thing to understand is, I'm going to break down some of the systemic structures of fascism. But Trump bubbles it back up. It's not like it wasn't there. He just gets the spirit of it going.
Yeah.
Because in a fascist state, okay, racism generates, it cogitates. You see what I mean? It breeds in that structure. And what are some of the structures of it? Well, first of all, there's no fixed ideology for fascism. So we see that it works within the particular country that it's in. The symbols of fascism is always connected to the nation state from which it arises. All right? So if it's German fascism, then its focus is going to be on Teutonic myths and the Aryan race and so on. If it's Italian fascism, it's going to focus on
Caesar,
Rome,
Rome.
the Roman Empire. The empire never died, but only declined. So it will have certain symbols.
In Spain?
Another form as well.
Yes,
There's all different
Franco.
different forms. The point is, it will have attached to it ideas of magical thinking by the state. The state is your granny. The state is your daddy. You see? It will have magical thinking, and also it will have notions of the ability to feel totally safe against the other. So what are some of the structural features? Today, what Trump has done, militarization of the police, wholesale surveillance. Let's stay with the militarization of the police. Just looking at that, the way it structures the police force so that they're draconian in their approach, militarize them, okay? Then wholesale surveillance, whether it's your phone, whether it's the television, whether it's laptops, whether it's on the streets, cameras everywhere. Wholesale surveillance so that you can be watched. Evisceration of due process and civil liberties being whittled away. That's part of the fascist state as well. So what have we got there? We've got wholesale surveillance. We've got evisceration of due process and civil liberties. We've got militarization of the police. And finally, these are just the key features, expansion of the carceral system, which is the prison industrial complex. Expand it. And I don't know if anybody knows about the author Michelle Alexandra.
Yes.
She wrote a book called...
New Jim Crow.
Exactly. Yeah. So you expand the prison industrial complex, and we know who for. So those fascist systemic structures, right? Racism breeds in that. In other words, it allows them to be more racist. Yeah. When you have a fascist society, you can be more. You can openly say how you feel about the other. You see, so that's where we are. Even thinking here in Europe, in 2024, we had more far-right parties in the history of elections, or at least since World War II.
Yes.
And within the European Parliament, lots of parties, far-right, with fascist tendencies, nativist tendencies, populist tendencies. You see? So we're getting the fascism right here in Europe and the United States as an incubator for racism. So it's coming, and it's going to be intense. Okay? So all of that then, when you get a fascist state, we should see that as the reproduction of racism. Because it's easy for the state to say, to make draconian laws about immigration. You might be dying and starving in that country, of which we caused, but you're not coming here. You see? That's why immigrations can be wrong, really, excessive immigration, because you're not allowing people to move where the wealth is. You see? That's really, really important. So that is, Trump has introduced the reproduction of racism, all right, through fascist structures in the American society, and fascism that's rising across Europe as we speak. Let's talk a little bit about that's our file. I want to just cut some of it out so that we can get straight to the Q&A. All right, let's go on to now China. All right, I heard the people want to talk about that, don't they? Right. Let's talk about China and link it to the reproduction of racism. I think the first thing to think about with China, which we often fall into the trap of as black people, is to forget that there's really two Chinas in terms of understanding China. And I'll say it like this. I did make a point earlier, didn't I, that I'm going to explain China through the idea of race. So two Chinas, revolutionary China and capitalist China as the workshop of the world today. two Chinas. And I think one of the best ways to understand the two Chinas is through looking at two of our most celebrated leaders. And I'll make the link. I think you'll like it. We're going to talk briefly about Malcolm X and also Huey P. Newton. Malcolm X, we know, was the African-American black nationalist international liberation leader. And then, of course, Huey P. Newton was the co-founder of the Black Panther Party in the latter part of the Civil Rights Movement. So Malcolm X, we all know, was part of the NOI, but then, of course, he made his visit to Africa. When he came back, he was a different man. There was an international dimension to Malcolm X, wasn't there, when he came back? I don't think it's fair to say that he was a Marxist, but I think it's fair to say that he saw our struggle in international terms. Yes. Because he would say, you're not going to understand the lynchings and the problems we have in Mississippi if you don't bother to understand what's going on in the Congo. So immediately he had an international dynamic to his understanding of racism. Okay? And that's really important. I'll link it to China in a minute. But he began to see that actually we need to fight on an international front. But its focus was still on Africa. He did acknowledge other non-white countries, but not to the degree that the other character that I'm not a character, but Huey P. Newton. Let's whip over to Huey P. Newton. Huey P. Newton, he underwent a massive paradigm shift as well, just like Malcolm X. But he didn't go to Africa. He went in 1971 to the People's Republic of China. And when he came back, he had this massive paradigm shift. Because he saw the struggle in international terms, but slightly different. He said in an interview that, yes, I take on the understanding of Malcolm X, the black nationalism of Malcolm X, but I can't say that the Black Panther Party did everything that Malcolm X would have done. So what did he do? What was his paradigm shift about? His paradigm shift was about the fact that he took on the ideologies of Mao. So really, Huey P. Newton was a Marxist with black nationalism tendencies, but he was really a Marxist.
Maoist.
Okay, he took on, and of course Mao was a Marxist as well. So this is where we link it to China. Mao, revolutionary China, was involved in the black liberation. He understood it. In fact, days after Martin Luther King had died, Mao had written a book which said, look, I really understand the importance of the black liberation struggles in the United States. So there was some synergy, and Huey P. Newton picked up on that synergy, and he was a Marxist with a black nationalist tilt as well. So there is a connection with China and revolutionary politics in the diaspora, particularly the United States, and to some degree here, because we did have some of the, we had synergy between the US and here. So there was a connection between China and black liberation tradition, which goes back to its history that it had with the anti-colonial struggles.
Sorry, my brother. Are you saying Huey P. Newton was a Marxist, or are you saying he bought into some of the Marxist ideologies when he went to China?
He was when he came back, he was certainly a Marxist, with the Mao take on it.
Yeah, that's how I'm seeing.
Absolutely,
That's how I'm reading that.
Absolutely, but he also had
Marxist tendencies before he went to China.
Yes, of course he did. But but what happened is it changed his perspective.
Yeah.
Just like when Malcolm X came, he changed his perspective. He became, he still was a black nationalist, but it had to be seen through Marxist lens, which is a Maoist lens. Okay? But the reason I'm bringing Huey P. Newton up...
Marxists sort of see the whole struggle through the economy.
Exactly. I'm going to get to that. So the point is, Mao helped during the black liberation period. There was synergy. He understood. He wrote about it. But that also fed into the fact that during the anti-colonial struggles, there was a connection. You see, China, People's Republic of China, got involved with supporting Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, as we were having that discussion, Chico. Yeah. So there is a connection there. Now, this is the point that I'm trying to make now. In 1978, when Mao died, you can interpret that really the vision of Mao died with him. That we don't have a revolutionary China anymore. What we have is China as the capitalist economy, China as the workshop of the world. And it does appear that China is doing exactly what the United States is doing. It's taking over from the United States. Yeah. Just like the United States took over from Europe and Britain, you could argue that China is going to be the new world power, certainly in terms of the economy. You see? So I said earlier, didn't I, that it's possible to interpret what China's doing now as just, let me just get myself into a strong capitalist position. And of course, I'm going to be revolutionary at some point. Or you could say, no, this world is based on race, and that what China's doing is working with America to build up investments in Africa. I mean, just look, it's up to this point, I think it's 400 billion that China has invested in Africa. It's not all one way, though, but they purchase key infrastructures, mines and port. I don't know about you, but when I hear the word mine, I get very edgy, because I think, who's going to be down those mines? And the Chinese have purchased some key mines. As I said, we're going to take questions and answers, brother, I promise. As I said, you can interpret it differently. If you see the world through a Marxist lens, you can say, well, the Chinese, all they're doing is making sure they're strong economically, okay, because we live in a capitalist world, and then it'll bring back some of its revolutionary attitudes. That might be true, but for me, personally, China is carrying out white supremacy. It joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, and its investments have gone up 20 times. So it's using its method, it's using economy it's using white supremacy to move up the ladder in the world. It's doing exactly what the United States is doing. Because the United States is declining. The G4, okay, we know they are the United States. Is Canada in that? I don't. It's United States, Canada, Britain, France.
G7.
G7, exactly. Well, the BRICS is not just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The BRICS has 22 countries in it. Indonesia joined the other day. So the BRICS is massive now.
Jamaica's enjoy.
Yeah. So my point is, you can argue that China is simply carrying out white supremacy with the World Bank and IMF, but some of the loans that it's doing they're not just basic commercial loans. Some of them are unconditional. So it's possible for someone else to sit here and show that China is being quite fair. But how do you see things in the long run? I would argue that China is carrying out white supremacy.
The resources of Jamaica. So in any country what they go into where they give unimaginable vast sums of money, they know that that money is attached to the resources of that country. So it's not the heads of whoever's running the country. They will take and seize that country's resources.
Yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. So really, then, it's a question of interpretation. But as I said, if you see the world through Marx's eyes, then you could say that all that China's doing is building its country up, and perhaps it still has a revolutionary mindset. But I would say no, it's exploiting Africa as we speak, and that is, of course, the reproduction of racism. Finally, in terms of the reproduction, I'm cutting loads out so we can get into other things. Two specific things that are really important. In 2020, we had the Cred report. the commissions for race, ethnic disparities. It used the word disparity. Guess what a disparity is? Inequality. But let's use the word disparity so we can throw people off. A disparity is an inequality. All right, but it didn't want to say race inequality because that's too stark. Let's call it disparity. Let's make it sound something different. You see? Anyway, that document was racist. It rolled back institutional racism, something that we had fought for, something that was clear in the wake of the Stephen Lawrence murder. And yet that document said that there's no structural evidence, right, that there's racism in this country that's holding people back in terms of outcomes and opportunities. It rolled that back. That is the reproduction of racism. Okay? And that's what we're living with now. Apparently, you know, there's no racism in this country. It's laughable. Absolutely laughable. And then, of course, in 2024, another key time in history is, as I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, that we had more far-right parties develop across Western Europe than ever before. Reproduction of racism. And as I said earlier, a fascist state incubates systemic racism, okay, because it allows the state to be openly racist, as opposed to being, you know, the liberal democrat notion of we are all fair, we are living in a society that's fair and equal. You see? That's why you have anti-racist organisations all around the country, because that's part of liberal democratic theory, to be anti-racist. Yeah, okay, we have that from the United Nations Declaration that it didn't start with us, it came from Nazi Germany, but we're on the back of that. But if you have a fascist state, you can ignore all of that. So a fascist state is part of the reproduction of racism. All right? So that is, I'll leave it there, because I know a lot of you have got questions that you want to ask. And if it doesn't relate to this little discussion, Phil, it's fine. All right? But we are going through a time where racism is being reproduced. And I mean, this is it. We're in the thick of it right now as we speak. All right? We'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
If you thank Brother Howard, we're going to go into Q&A now. Just not many guidelines. Just really just raise your hand and say who you are, and we'll take a few questions. And Brother Howard will come back to you. So, floor is open, sisters and brothers. First hand.
Chico, is there anything you want to say about the question and answers?
If just speak loud. Yeah. Or if you want to come close to the camera.
I think this brother had one first.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was off the back of what the sister initially said. This phrase of people of color. It's the latest presentation of something called colored people, and you said it was racist. That term is racist, and I ask you to qualify. To me, that's a strong thing to put without qualification. That's racist. That needs qualification. Why is the term people of color specific? Why is that term racist?
So why is the person people of color racist?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to add another one more, because another term they're using as well now is black and brown people.
Black and brown.
Yes, I'll throw that in as well.
Language
right. The reason the term people of colour is racist, right, because it is in the inverted coloured people. And we all know that apparently we dispelled that in the 60s.
That's right.
And today we are told that we shouldn't say coloured people. You see, you can't say coloured people. It's a racial epithet. But people of colour is coloured people inverted. You see, and then you get huge amounts of liberal, bourgeois blacks, people of colour. Now, when you use the term people of colour, you then can use the term black and brown people. Yeah. Now, when you use the term black and brown people,
and BAME.
Sorry?
And BAME as well.
Yes, of course. We'll get to that as well. When you use the term people of black and brown people, all you're doing is reinforcing race. I understand that language is difficult. It's very difficult, the way the racists have constructed language. I tend to say white, non-white. Okay? And the reason I use white, non-white, because that's the way the world is constructed. Don't shoot the messenger. You have the global north and the global south. White, non-white. You can see the economic disparities. So the correct term, the term that expresses what is happening on planet Earth, is white, non-white. Now, obviously, there are multiple pockets of white power. Okay? So it's not the old 30s, the white man. It's not that, because there are different pockets of power. Okay? But it is white, non-white. There's no question about it. Because even the whites who might not be taking part in individual racism are benefiting from structural racism. So it's always going to be white, non-white. Whether you're consciously or unconsciously practicing racism, what's going on the planet is white, non-white. People of colour is inverted coloured people. And I have to understand what Olatunji just mentioned there. Sometimes you hear people say black and brown people. I don't use it. I use black and other non-whites. That's what I use. That's what I use. Because if I'm talking about my situation, why shouldn't I put my group first? So I say black and other non-whites. I don't say people of colour, because that's a racist term. It's rooted in race science. The idea that ethnic groups are colours. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, that's the problem. I hope that's answered your question for you.
You said something about the Chinese doing white supremacy. Did you say that in regarding China? The Chinese employing white supremacy, as it were, or how is that possible?
Well,
because they're victims themselves, aren't they?
Yes, but there is revolutionary China, the China that helped black liberation during the 60s and 70s, and China that helped anti-colonial struggle. But the China today seems to be on a different trajectory. It seems to be the workshop of the world. It's doing exactly what the United States is doing, you see? And some of its key investments and infrastructure are dodgy. You see what I mean? I'm not saying all the loans are strange, but you're doing a deal with China, and then China wants your mines and your ports.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of having a mine. What are you buying a mine for? Who's going down that? Okay, am I going down that, or are you going down? You see what I mean? I don't like it. My point is, China appears to be carrying out white supremacy. It joined the World Trade Organization and so on. If you interpret the world through racial lens. If you don't, you could say China is just being capitalistic until it gets its footing, and then it'd be able to be revolutionary again, if you want to take that interpretation.
Revolutionary and capitalist China.
Revolutionary China and capitalist China.
Can you say that the current China is utilize a socialist system?
That's a very good question. You just say that, did that come over? Good. Very, very important. Look, there are major white European economists who say that China is a social democratic country now. Okay? But there are also white European economists who say China is a communist country. Now, China has never called itself communist. It never has. It has communist parties, but it's never called itself communist. That's something that's put onto it. So one of the West's greatest economists, Richard Wolff, says that China's had communist parties, and that's probably something in the future. But right now, it's a social democratic, it has social democracy with Chinese characteristics. That's what it has. But it's not a communist country insofar as its main debtor is the United States. If the United States is poor, China is poor. You see? So that's what's going on. China is taking over from America. America's biggest debtor is China. It used to be Japan, it's now China. Okay, so in that sense, China has communist parties, but it's a social democratic country, and it has free market economy within China. There's hundreds of Chinese who have businesses. It's not just a planned economy in China anymore. But I think one of the reasons, my personal view, why people are convinced that it is a communist society, just so you can differentiate it. You see, many Europeans, you've got to be exactly like them. And if you don't do exactly like them, you're the other. So let's just keep calling them communists because they don't do capitalism as we perceive it. They may have a point because the British invented capitalism. It's up to them. But China, even by their own economists, Richard Wolff, John Meiserheimer, they both say that China is a social democratic society that has huge spending with the United States. All right, it invests in with the United States. Yeah.
Can we just quickly add as well, in terms of the difference between China and America vis-a-vis the African world, is when China engages with the African world, they're concerned about the resources, and that's primarily it, what they get out. America likes to impose its value system as well. And that's normally a condition. So they want to impose certain social policies, whatever. That's probably the key difference, where people see China as being less of an imposition because all China wants is resources. Don't say it's any less destructive, but America wants to put its social imprint on that country as well, which actually also obviously goes against our value system, where China says, do what you want. As long as we get the gold, then we get the resources, the
oil,
and as long as you pay us back. If you don't pay us back, then we take your stock.
Take your mine, exactly. Interventionist foreign policy, non-interventionist.
So, as I said, that's an excellent point there. Obviously. So the point is how you want to perceive China. I believe race was central to the making of the modern world.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So I understand that capitalism needs to be critiqued. And Marxism is probably a good way of critiquing it. But I'm not going to see... To me, the problem with Marx is that he didn't think that white supremacy is a system. He believed that there was class discrimination, but he didn't believe class as a system of discrimination, but he didn't believe that race is a system. And all you've got to do is look at apartheid. That's a racial order. That was a racial order. So class comes into being... and it modifies class relations. Okay, so Dr. Charles Mills will break it down. He's got his book, The Racial Contract, but also he's got an incredible video on YouTube called Materializing Race, and he explains it there. So I see China through a racial lens, and I don't see why I shouldn't.
Can I just quickly ask you, Brother Howard? You mentioned the breakdown of fascism and different elements to it. What role does scapegoating play in delivering fascism in different economies and societies?
Can you give me an example of the scapegoating?
Well, you identify a group of people and actually they're seen as a cause of that society's problems. You know, the obvious example you could think of, say, let's say Nazi Germany and who they targeted. Is that a feature currently in fascism? And if it is, who is being scapegoated?
Yeah, I would say I would say absolutely a feature. Absolute feature. Because look, when you don't have a fascist society, okay, then liberal democracy comes into play, which is it has this notion that we have a fair and equal society. It's okay to be anti-racist. But when you have a fascist society, you can outrightly scapegoat people and say, look, you're poor because of this immigration. So yes, I would agree. I can't think of any particular... Look, the groups are always going to be black. They're always going to scapegoat black people in certain fashions. But absolutely, in a fascist society, it incubates racist behaviours and scapegoating, without a doubt. It's easier to do. Absolutely easier to do. The reason I can be anti-racist is because Britain says it's a liberal democratic state, which says equality and fairness for all people. So you're allowed to put that forward. But if you have a fascist society, very difficult to do, because it's all about the other damaging this nativist group that have the right to be there and you don't. So that's a problem.
Good question, Vera.
Est-ce que Benoît, two questions. One you said about Marxism. Is that what the Chinese first moved into? The Marxist side of because that big population and everything else. So when Marxism was about, is that what the Chinese was doing?
Yeah, Mao's China was
yeah.
Marxist, yeah. And of course, when China became a state,
Right.
we were still going for our anti-colonial struggles.
Right.
So apparently there's synergy. There was synergy to some degree. They did help. There's no question with the anti-colonial struggles in terms of money and assistance. But they do. Maoism is a form of Marxism, without a doubt. Okay, it is a form. Look, we have Marxism in our history as black people because we'll try anything. But I believe today, I'm not anti a black person who's Marxist, but I believe today that we should move on from it. Marx was a racist, by the way. Okay, he was a racist. He called black people degenerate niggers. And of course, if you're a racist, that's a problem. We could go into that later. But my point is, it's really important to understand that it's important for black people to see the world as it is, and the world is racialized. You see, Marx didn't acknowledge white supremacy as a system. He didn't acknowledge it. He acknowledged racism, but he didn't acknowledge race. He basically reduced racism to what he called the superstructure. So it's just a kind of strategy of monopoly capitalism for super profits. It's just a tool of the ruling classes to break up solidarity among the world. No, it's more than that. Look at South Africa. That's a racial order. You see, so that's the point. Marx is not current, okay, in terms of black people who have been racialized. That's my point.
Okay, one other point. Would you say that, obviously with technology and obviously places like China have banned or go outside of Asia and parts of Africa are seeing what capitalism done in a much bigger way through the technologies, I say, through phones and what have you, and saying, hold on, we want piece of this capitalism because it looks good, it's nice. Because some of the stuff that we're seeing in Africa where, certain parts are really poverty-stricken, but yet, the disparity, as you said, I think, is quite large, where another system, rather than capitalism, I don't know which one it is, would actually better, everybody rather than a small piece. So, with the advent of technology moving, AI or whatever, I think it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted your take on that. It sounds a little bit mixed up with it.
Yeah.
Capitalism, in its form, is going to even get,
more draconian.
More, yeah.
Without a doubt, you see. That's why I know it's nice to go to Africa and see all these amazing things that the Chinese are doing. But that we do have, we can look at South Africa. You can have beautiful built-up modernity and then push to the side, you have the shanty towns. Yeah. So I'm not convinced of that. I think we need to return to something that's more familiar to what we are as African people. You see what I mean?
Can I just interject something on how the sad reality of the whole thing is we talk about we, but we don't do nothing. We watched apartheid. We watch what's going on in America. Similarly, what's going on in Africa. You had over 100 years the big carve up, the infamous Berlin Conference, right? Right now, you've got the richest man in the whole of Africa, Del Gotti, the oil man, right? Sitting there in Nigeria. A lot of these things is happening around Africa. What are we're letting it happen. We're doing nothing.
They did talk about the African nations. There's a lot of talk about that.
Well,
we're pushing that.
Well,
the African nations.
They're pushing it as if everybody that stood up, going back from Patrice Lumumba, coming forward to as recent as Gaddafi, everybody that stood to structure it has been taken out. A white girl assassinated. And like I said, we are seeing this. What are we doing? Nothing.
Well, okay. I'll try and answer that to some degree. I know where you're coming from. It feels like we're doing nothing.
We're not doing that now.
Yeah. Let me give it a shot. let me give it a shot, Julia. The idea that speaking does nothing is flawed. That's not correct. You have to look. The government is monitoring everything we say.
I'll let you come back. When I say we're doing nothing, I deal with a lot of things, including health and wellness. As I explained to you, in 26 years, personally, I've reversed 5-6 different conditions what medical science has stated impossible. During the COVID, I was helping people bounce back in 4 days. I never charge a penny to a soul, right? I've gone out there and made things happen. When I say we, what are we doing? You can talk till the cows come home unless you are prepared to do something and be the change you want to see. It's gonna be like the band plays on.
Right, let me answer that then. Let me try and answer that. Firstly, there's a number of forces at play. Okay, number one, talking is not immaterial. It's very important that we talk. That's why governments are monitoring every single thing we do. It's really important to talk, if not for us, but for our children. So the fact that we're having these lectures, okay, it's changing our points of view. We pass it on to our children. Maybe there could be new leaders or whatever. But the idea that we shouldn't talk, we must talk. It's really important to do that. The second thing that what I'm trying to say is that political power is quite diverse. Okay, so sometimes you can't do physical things. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes some of the things would mean a direct confrontation with the imperialist. Other things are not. I think it's important that we work together as a group with people. If we can't work with people as a group, work on your own. Work with your family. But I don't think one size is going to fit it all. If you feel that you can achieve something by working on your own, great. Other people need to work in groups and so on. That's what I think. I think it's important that we do anything we can to be liberated.
Sometimes to make that omelette, you have to crack. You know, they can't just talk about making egg. You have to crack the egg. So as a people going forward, we have to take control. We have to rise up. Like my family in Jamaica was now part of history. He decided that it's time to put the shoulders to the wheel. They spoke, they had various discussions, meetings, the Underhill meeting. He himself walked from St. Thomas to the Governor General's residence in Spanish Town, right? A 70-mile round trip in blazing heat, right? It had come when there was no more time for talking. As he said, blood have to run. And sometimes to make a difference and to make a change, it's irrespective of who's watching us, who's bugging us, who's monitoring us, right? You're going to die on your feet or you're going to die as a dog on the floor. It comes a time when you have to rise up.
I totally agree. And we're not going to achieve that. We've got to achieve that on all fronts. So I totally agree with what you're saying. I totally agree with it.
Have you got any suggestion of what we can do to contribute towards what you're saying in terms of what are we doing? Have you got any suggestions of what we can do?
Is that Junior?
Yeah, the man that's saying what are we doing? Have you got any suggestions of what we can do?
Ask yourself the same question, my brother. What are you prepared to do?
No. I'm asking if you've got any suggestions of what we can do. You're saying what are we doing, and I'm asking have you got any suggestions of what we can do?
I've done many things, my brother. Right?
For us, let's just direct it to rather than each other. Let me just quickly say though. I think sometimes we don't always know what's going on because we're not involved in it, and I think there is a lot going on. I think there's lots that we're doing. And if we look at, for example, we mentioned the motherland, a lot of people now focused on what they call the Sahel region. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger as well. And people are very currently optimistic about President Ibrahim Traore. But he didn't come out of nowhere. He had a prime minister, exactly recently, he's not sure why that was, prime minister who was a disciple of Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara was deposed in 1987. But that thread has continued. So, as long as we tune into our history and our culture, and we have the conversation with each other and organise where we are, then actually that work can carry on. So the issue is for us now is if a call gets put out to us to be somewhere, to assemble somewhere like you've come here today, do we answer that call, respond to that call?
Very few do. Because I've been to such meetings where there's been a call and I've gone to the meetings and I've been very disappointed.
I'm disappointed, but the issue is for me is do we despair or do we carry on to be optimistic? Because at the end of the day, our children need to see us doing something. Our children need to see us putting things together for them. Because if we don't have a plan for our children, we know what's going on outside there. Other people have a plan for our children and we see it on a daily basis. That's their plan. What's ours? So those are the kind of things I'm thinking, so like Brother Howe said, I wouldn't diminish the value of conversation. We need to speak, but obviously it has to go towards some kind of positive action.
Absolutely.
And it has to be in the context of the world realizing that there is pushback. And so there's people who are intending for what we do to fail. And the purpose of that is to demoralize us. So that our mission is not to be demoralized and carry on. There's a forehand at the back.
I'm 100%. This comes up in lots of meetings. What's the next step? And I think Junior should have said it, but in a roundabout way, there was a brother Dougie that was holding groups like this and trying to pick up on the numbers. And I remember brother Dougie saying, and
Dougie from Chestnuts.
Yeah, and you're echoing that.
Yeah.
In a way that, whatever there is out there, check it out. In terms of small groups, big groups, medium groups, anything that relates to us as black people, what we're going to do, go there and check it out, because you say the children will see us doing that and it starts to evolve. But as I say, I'm not a bit heavy on the technology, but that technology, if we use it in a way with the different groups, that can move very quickly. But at the moment, we don't know how to mobilize that properly with our young people. It's more sort of entertainment and stuff like that. But we can use it in such a way, if the young people, we can get them to do it, then that will move the masses very much so. And that's what it's about. We're all talking about that, the smaller groups or one group, just the chatting group. But we know that if we've used the technology in the right way, we can very much mobilize quickly and use the masses. And it's the young people that have got to feel the energy in regards to where we want to go, and not be happy to sort of be at the bottom of the rail, which I feel in this country, that's where we're right at the bottom at the moment. Other communities are coming and taking over. And I would say, because I went to something just not too much, which is big. I went to the 100 Black Men last week. Again, I heard about it sort of maybe 5 years ago, and it took me 5 years to go there. But I was very impressed what I saw in regards to, just to share it with you, they had the careers there with the young people, and how the young people there, with their parents backing them, were very strong with where they're going. So again, that's one group. I'm sure there's other groups, but that obviously is a powerful group, because the stuff that they're sitting on, it's a chapter from America, and this is the London chapter. I don't know if they've got any other chapters, but what I see happen, there was, to be honest, in terms of the different groups, I was very much astounded with it. So those of you who want to Google 100 Black Men, and even, some groups, I said, I was at another group last night, even if you just contribute when they go on Zoom, because that makes life easier again, mobilizing. Sometimes the travel can be heavy for some people, but you make a presence on the Zoom. And if it's a contribution, because every day everyone's asking for a contribution, And with some of the groups, I just sort of contribute and sort of say, I'm there, rather than not be there. So, again, you know, just with your kind of thing, that's why I really wanted to come to that. Thanks so much. And I apologise for being late. I bought your book already. I'm very impressed with what you're saying. And we, you know, we just got to do more of this, because if we don't, and I'm hoping to, you know, set something. It took me 5 years, I said, to get to the Band of Brothers. Oh, it's not Band of Brothers, it's another group, but the 100 Black Men. And every group that we can spend some time, that's going to really make us move forward, because then we see the networks of all, even so little, growing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me just say something about our youngsters. Obviously, there's an absence of young people here today. And that's why I also written the Racism Handbook. I'm a teacher in a school, and I can tell you that the youngsters, they're not on anybody's level. Now, I'm not talking about the acquisition of knowledge, but they're not on our level as to why we're here. The only thing they're on, and I've been in schools since 2023 until now. Oh, I've got to be famous. I've got to get money. I've got to be like some sort of wealthy person. That's it. You mention race, you'll offend them. This is what's going on. I was trying to tell, when I was writing this book, I was trying to tell a friend of mine, she had some sort of notion that young people are going to save us. And I said, they can't save us if they're racially illiterate. Our young children are racially illiterate. Now, this book is a blank studies guide. That's the purpose of it, so that we can fully understand the black experience. It takes you through it. You don't have to go to university, but it takes you through the disciplines of black study. And a youngster can read that. You can read it with them and so on. So our youngsters, they don't think that there's any problem. They just need to get money. And black people don't have money, so I need to go out into the world and get it. They're just tripping on that. They are racially illiterate.
That's true. But no, the reason why I asked as well, because I'd say that 2017, 2018, whatever, I call it the Brexit dividend, because once Brexit happened, so many people felt emboldened about how they responded to us.
Yes, they did.
And just another quick thing, in terms of the case that happened, a brethren of mine, good brethren of mine, he got taken to court and lost because the police were draping up somebody. There's the African police who dealt with mixed, and he said he used the term coconut, and arrested and convicted him on that basis. He used the term coconut and said that he was racially abusing the police officer, and the magistrates found him guilty. He appealed and they upheld the conviction. But anyway, let's go back, sisters and brothers. Is there anybody who hadn't asked a question once the...
Let me just make a point. Brother Howard said that they're racially illiterate. And we need to focus on what the brother is saying about that. I circulate information about this meeting, and a young person responded, and he said, this is 2025, uncle. Nobody experienced racism in a day-to-day life. As a young person. And he would say that because maybe nobody is calling nigger directly confronts him. So as far as he's concerned, racism done. And the other point the brother raised is that the young people are saying it, that they just need some cash in the pocket. And who have good amount of cash don't have a problem. They see things in terms of money. Come to meeting, am I going to pay? Can I make money out of that? So we keep saying we, and we are the most diverse people on the planet. In Nigeria alone, there's over 200 languages in just one country. So when you look at the entire African continent, which one of us in this room today can say that I have gone through a process to fully understand our condition, our situations, and I'm well prepared to meet the challenge? None of us. I've been at this now for over 50 years. And I'm learning. Because if you come to my house and I offer you a piece of cake, and you taste the cake and say, "Hope you guys have that nice cake. How do you make it?" And I'll give you the recipe. These are the ingredients. This is how you put it together. And if you follow the instructions clearly, he may even turn out a better cake than what I gave it. What model does any one of us follow? Where's the recipe? All of us recognize that we're in a bad state. And something must be done. But how do we go about it? Is there a handbook? A revolutionary struggle? In fact, oftentimes, we don't even try to find out what is the strength and weakness, what is the success and failure of organization in distant past, currently. We just jump in. We all talk about we. But if you look at the word we, turn it upside down, and it's me. And too often, we govern about me. And the we is how it meant us.
If you're dealing and looking about a movement, right? We're far too often there, we've gone wrong. We have a leader, right? That's usually taken out. When the leader's taken out, the whole thing corrects. To have any movement, progressive movement, you have to have a line command. So no individual is seen to be the head of that organization. And at the same time, it should never be known who is the head of that organization, because amongst your own people, you will be infiltrated and they are going to bring you down, your own people. So on that movement going up, right, it has to be structured so intricately, right, that nobody don't even know who's the head of that organization. Because you are going to get bugged, you are going to get followed, we are going to be, even our own will turn against each other. Or your same brethren that dislike you or your missus, somebody will come and try sleep with this one, that one, on so many different levels.
I don't think there needs to be a head of any organization. In let me tell you what I mean by. For example, we've all sat here and listening to Brother Howard talk, and there was mention of like, okay, what can we do or what are we going to do? And we've all been to many of these meetings where we have many collective ideas and interest of, and are concerned about ourselves as black people. And we keep on going over this, how do we get out of this? How do we help ourselves? How do we do such and such and such? And in what my brothers just said there, about there being a head of an organisation on such and such and such. So suppose when we all decided now that, us people in this room here now decided that, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, alright? All of us here will agree and know what it is we're going to do, and we will all be doing whatever it is we do when we're in our individual selves, when we're by ourselves in our individual dealings. You understand what I'm saying? And then we'll still do that collectively when we're doing it. So it doesn't have to be something whereby there's a person like the head of this or a head of that. You understand? Because we all understand what it is that we're living. And we all understand that we're responsible for our lives and our families and our communities and our people. And it's just like if we say, all right, we're going to put on a little someone's birthday, yeah? And we say, all right, everybody come and bring a bottle and bring some food. Boom, you do that. You understand, yeah? So then the same way we do that, it's the same way we do whatever next stage we agree to do to better ourselves up the chain of the structures and the systems that fight us all the time. You understand? The same way we say, all right, Pepper Kite's birthday, all right, we're going to do a little thing. Everybody's going to come and bring a bird and bring a food and boom, and we do that. So that's the same way we have to look at what it is we're going to do to up ourselves. You understand? So then we have so whatever it is that we collectively agree on and decide, and then we come to the conclusion of, say, we agree on the things that we say. Okay, it's a Marxism idea. It's a colorism idea, or whatever the actual ingredients of, whatever the actual ingredients of the thing is, we all agree on the ingredients, yeah, and we all agree on how we're gonna bake the cake, yeah, and then we'll just have to just do the thing, you see me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
It
does.
Anyone wants to raise a point or to raise their hand so we can see? Okay.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear from people who haven't spoken yet as well. It's really a question for Brother Hal. Just quickly refer to what Brother Peppercar was saying, about the young people not interested in the race issue. But you've got other people going around talking about two-tier policing, who are up and down the country last summer, tearing up the place, trying to burn down hotels, beating up people, and you had 12-year-olds involved in that, alongside their brothers, fathers, grandfathers even. So the irony is, whereas our young people suddenly can't see race as an issue, other people see it everywhere, and see us and other people the problem, because they talk about immigrants.
Yes.
They can't see us. They don't know whether immigrants or not.
Yes.
So when it's about immigrants, they're also including us.
Yes.
And the immigration issue and the two-tier policing issue. So that's the thing is, the peers of our young people see race everywhere, but young people saying they don't see it's not important. We have to ask ourselves why that is. And I think the issue of racial literacy, if the parents don't have it, the children aren't going to have it.
This is.
So that's why I said, go back to what I said earlier. So everyone needs to have this, but everyone don't have the book. Get the book, because you need our language. We communicate need to be the epitome of racial literacy. How we analyse things when we see things happening in the news. Analysis needs to speak to racial literacy. If you're not sure what it is, get the book. Any questions or comments, preferably for anyone who hasn't spoke yet?
Sister Washington.
You actually kind of summarise what I needed to say.
Say it, in your words.
It's two parts. One, thank you for doing this book. I have not read it, so I don't know if it actually talks to the youth as well. But like you've just said, it's a matter of us understanding that, how we apply it, and passing it down to the younger people. I see the young people a bit like the LGBT community that they're forcing on us. In a few years' time, it's just normal. It's just normalised because it's in the schools, it's in the system. My young people around me, they don't know what you're talking about if I say anything against it or if I talk about racism. They're on another level. So we have to bring it back to them with that information. But like you said, you need to analyse. So what I really wanted to ask, first of all, Brother Howard, I don't know if I'm a bit off key, but this situation in Congo with M23 and Trump and the Chinese, how do we, again, was talking about doing something, that we can do something. But if we cannot analyse a situation, how can we do anything about it? We feel helpless. I'm helpless. What's going on in Congo? We're helpless. I'm helpless. One, I don't understand it. So I don't understand. I understand how it affects us as a race, but not the mechanics.
Okay.
So if you don't understand that, how do you start?
Right.
Do you understand what
Okay.
I'm saying?
All right. Look, I've got an article on my website called "What is Racially Illiterate," because I didn't have space in the book, so I put it on the website. And Olatunji said it there. What I'm trying to say. And sometimes when we were at the Marcus Garvey Centre and I said it and people took offence, but I'm okay for that. That's the point. Look, this is the starkest way I can say it. Most adults are racially illiterate. Now, once a person understands race, you answer many of these questions ourselves. So I know, for example, am I going to stay in Britain? Am I going to set up systems that help to fight racism? Am I going to have my family? Am I going to move back to Africa? I'm going to be in the rest. Things are clearer for me. Things be clearer for us once we become racially literate. Adults are not racially illiterate. We're not. We have fragmented knowledge and lots of arrogance as well. So and that's something I've noticed as well, that black people, there are different types. Some black people will buy the book, leaf through it, oh that's interesting, a few words here and there, and stick it on the shelf. That's going on. And there's black people who don't read books from top to end. There's black people who read bits. There are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of black people who have never completed a book from top to bottom. That's going on. And there's an education to tell you, that's a fact. So until we become racially literate, then we can pass it down. Our children look at us as if, you're going to tell us how to deal with things? We just need money. You don't know what you're doing. We're not dealing with the problem at hand, which is first get racially literate, which means understand the black experience. What does it mean to be black? What was the American experience? What was the UK experience? What is the anti-colonial struggles? What's the civil... Once you get your knowledge up, you then have a clearer vision of who you are and where to go. It definitely affects you, without a doubt. I'm speaking from personal experience. Once you become racially literate, your whole perspective on liberation changes. But a lot of black people go through a few experiences and then they think they've got it sussed. I've had a few experiences, I've got it sussed. But they haven't. They haven't. Now, we can't all go to university. We can't all sit on courses. We haven't got time for that. So what I've done is put it into a book form. This is actually a Black Studies guide. This is Black Studies, which what you do in university. But I've simplified it. I've simplified it. Black Studies has between 10 and 12 disciplines. I've simplified it. I've made it easier. So you can get your knowledge up. Black people don't now... Another thing about racial illiteracy is a lot of people think that I can't be racially illiterate because I'm 30 or I'm 60 or I'm 30. You can be 80 and be racially illiterate. Okay? Most of the knowledge that black people have is, oh, we used to be slaves, we live in a racist society, racism everywhere, oh, we've got Donald Trump, oh, things are vamping. That's it. There's more to it than that. We've got to get our knowledge up so that our children know that we know what the black experience is. We know where to go next. We don't know where to go next. And this is what I've done. I've tried to put it into easy form. And I did interviews, and I did study, and these are the chapters. What is race? Black people don't know what race is. Lots of black people don't know what it is. What is racism? Black people, most black people are convinced of the white interpretation of racism. I did my interviews. I had hundreds and hundreds of interviews with black people, and you ask them what is racism. It's incredible, the answers you're going to get. Charles Darwin on race, why is that important? The slave trade, all the contradictions there. Racism in Christianity. African composite religion. Who are we? Mixed race, the racialization of mixed black and white race people, and self-help books. Anti-black development, that's what self-help books are. But you go into any black household in the UK, and you will find how to do this, how to do that, how to be strong, how to have a strong personality with no recourse to Africanness. That's called racially illiterate. Okay? You need to understand the black self to be strong. You can't go to W.H. Smith and pick up a book, 10 Spiritual Ways of Making Yourself Strong. That's stupidity. Okay? You are an African or of African descent. You have a different psychology. You need to study that psychology. Okay, and that's what that chapter's about. Self-help books are destructive to the African mind.
Right, you want to give our brothers and sisters a definition of what racism actually is?
Yeah, sure.
Before we do that, though, let me just quickly say, in terms of Brother Howell talking about racial illiteracy, you have to be clear that everything in a society is designed to produce racial illiteracy. The schooling, the education, the edutainment, music, whatever it is, everything's designed for that. So that's what we're fighting against. That we're not supposed to be racially literate at all. That for this society to function, that is a normal state. So what we're doing is going against the grain in a serious way. That's the level we're dealing with. Everything designed to produce racial illiteracy in us, but also racial illiteracy in those people, because they're very racially literate when it comes to us as well, and we're not. So racism.
Yeah. Okay. What is racism? Did you want to say something, sister, before you?
No, thank you, Howard. I've listened to you over the years on Galaxy. Very interested. I was waiting to buy the book.
Thank you for coming, sister.
Yeah. Would you be doing a course to break down your book?
Right.
With a course?
That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, very.
Thank you, sister. Look, this book. How can I put this to get through to my people? I could have had a doctorate. I could be Dr. Johnson. For all that's worth, Olatunji. Give the damn. But you know what I mean? But my point is this. You wouldn't have this. You wouldn't have that. I did this for you. Okay? When I wrote the chapter on Darwin, okay, I took it into a university. I spoke to an associate professor. Oh yeah, we can make some change. It was clear it was going to go in another direction. There would be no racism handbook. There would be Dr. Johnson. That's all that would be. No racism handbook. And elite academic language, and go on Google Scholar and have a look. That's what would have happened. I forfeited that to put it in to easy study, and most black people will leaf through it and put it on the shelf. That's what's going to happen, and some won't buy it. But that's what it is. It's going to take you through it. Now, this book costs thousands and thousands of pounds to do. I didn't go to white publishers. I didn't do it. Now, of course, there should be a course. Okay, I'm trying. But, you know, you do one thing and it leads to the next and you take it from there. I can't do everything, but this is Black Studies in your hand. If you understand this, you would have done a good chunk of Black Studies at a university. It's right here in front of you. There should be a course, and I will think about that, and I'm certainly going to think about a Black Studies course. I will online. I will think about that.
One behind was the children.
In the interim, maybe you can think about doing things like study groups. A group of people will have the book and get together and go through a chapter over a certain period of time.
Absolutely.
In the absence of that, that's what we can try and do.
I'm waiting for someone to say to me, and it may never happen, but it might happen. Thank you for this book, Brother Howard. I want to help you to set up a reading circle. Can you supply some books? And we read it together and we go through it. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I'm up for that.
Okay, we can do that.
That'd be nice.
But the book is Black Studies. Everything you need to know is in here. I can't say it anymore. This is volume 1. There is volume 2, which is more of the same thing. And then, of course, there's volume 3, which is the Racism Handbook for Young People.
But there's a lot of things that people may not understand with certain terminologies as well. And that's what we have to, as you say, we're racially literate. Those are things we have to get over.
Exactly. So let's do...
The book club.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Quite different.
So Olatunji said that you said...
Okay, the good thing about this book, though, is that there's very few terms you won't understand in this book. Because the way Brother Howard has written it, it's very accessible to everybody. Because really, I think Brother Howard had in mind teenagers, that level. Because, again, his audience is all of us. Not the standard academic right into the academic friends between them having their little highfalutin arguments. The idea was to get to the people, so there's very little in there conceptually, I would say, that people can't understand. Bear in mind, we're in an age of illiteracy, because I think there's some survey that came out recently that 40% of people in this country haven't read a book in the last year.
Wow, that's awful.
So, so the book is there as an accessible resource for all of us, and I think, so...
How much is the book, sir?
The book is $19.99. Let me just give a definition of racism, because that is... We think we've got that.
So, 1999 reduced from several thousand.
yeah, absolutely. Look, racism, there are essentially, let's say, 3 types of racism. There's individual racism, one-to-one, okay? And sometimes people call that interpersonal racism. And then there's systemic institutional racism, which is racism which is an institution. So the person at the front desk could be very progressive, not racist, black, white, Asian, whatever. But racism is still going on in that institution because of the policies and the procedures of that institution. That's institutional racism. Then there's systemic racism, where you have one form of racism extending to other parts of the country. So it becomes systemic. So if you have for example, if you have a poor school, poor resources, then it means that a child might not get the proper education, and then later they don't go to college, they don't go to university. So therefore it becomes systemic. Then you have the biggest form of racism, which is structural. You have these systemic forms that spread globally. So individual, structural, institutional. These are different forms of racism. And then, of course, for us as black people, we internalise racism. Okay? The reason we're not prepared to call it racism per se, okay, is because we don't have the power to set up systems of domination against other ethnic groups. So we internalise it. And guess who we like to attack the most? Any ideas? Ourselves.
That's why it says we can't be racist, right?
Right, because we can't set up systems and structures of racism. But we internalise the racism, and the problem is that we can have feelings of inferiority as well. That's our different forms of racism. Race is a bit more complex for black people, all right, because some black people read race back into the ancient world, and there was no race back then. Right? Race is a modern phenomenon.
Yes.
Okay, it starts in the modern world. Okay. I don't think I should say much more there, because a lot of black people get upset.
If you know, like I mentioned about the African nation.
Sorry?
African nation.
Yes.
They're trying to set up, as a nation. Would you get racism in there?
Right, black people do not practice racism on black people. I was in my school. I've got a black teacher who's from St. Lucia, and he said, "What about our racism? Black people, we don't practice racism on each other. That's not happening. Racism is based on race. You and I are the same race.
That's right.
How can I practice race on you when you're the same race as me?" Okay, we are practicing, ethnic conflict among different ethnic groups, among ourselves. We may have difference in food and culture and different things, you see. And so we, because of our internalisation of racism, and because of all the inequality of the disparities, often we pour it onto each other. So we don't have racism. Black people do not practice racism on black people. We've got to stop saying that to our children. We practice conflict, prejudice amongst each other, even hate, jealousy. Oh, this black person's done something. Oh, well, he's a black person. I can go up and talk and get to know him and we can do things together. No, look at him. Hate for nothing. We do all that sort of stuff. It's got to stop. But we do not practice racism. Don't worry about what white racists are telling you. We do not practice racism. On the continent, you have ethnic conflict, ethnic differences and conflict amongst each other. Here, we internalise that. And there's multiple ethnic groups right in this room here today. They just call us black, but there's multiple ethnic groups right in this room. And we often do that. Hi, good to see you. Come in. So yeah, we don't practice racism. We don't practice racism. Does anybody, is that new to anybody today? Because a lot of black people think we practice racism.
Yeah, indeed. Me personally,
we don't practice racism.
I'm having to wrestle with
because
it.
You and I are the same race.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, but we're different. We might be different ethnic groups. I don't know.
Yeah, up until this point,
right?
Because we have been bombarded with things like black on black crime. You understand? That stuff like that, and that permeates the air. And then you to come now, up until this point, and dispel that.
Right.
I'm having to kind of shift.
Sure.
There's going to be a gear shift in my
black on black.
thinking.
Notice how Amos Wilson named that. He said black on black crime. Because he knows that in America there are multiple black peoples. There's multiple ethnic groups. You just call them black. That's a term that has been given.
Growing up, how I used to look on it, which is still how I look on it, is that the oppression of a superior race. Now, we don't have the power in the Western world, so we cannot be even racist or against, because we don't hold that. Well, they hold the power.
That I get.
So who hold the power, which is the Caucasian in the Western world, suppressing the other nations of color.
I'm coming to you, brother. Just quickly say, you mentioned Amos Wilson.
Yeah.
The book was Black on Black Crime. What's the subtitle? The subtitle was The Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in service of White Domination.
There you have.
So that's how we define black on black crime.
That's the full title.
The service of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. That's what I wouldn't say black on crime. That's what it really is.
And that's Berber. That's been. We're talking about something going back from time, because there was something was going around that's regurgitated, where a freed slave, this was in America, was passing and witnessed a master whipping his slave, and he took the whip from him and whipped the master and told the slave that if he wants his freedom to come for him, and he gave him his name and address, right? And this is what Malcolm called the house slave, the field slave scenario. So he gave him his address and said, if he wants to be free, this is it. Yeah,
recently, yeah.
And he gave the master, and that's something was coming. It's actually a fiction on faction.
Yeah.
Right. So the master, he gave the address to, and the master told him that if he go and killed him, he would give him his freedom. So he went pretend that he was looking for his freedom, killed the man that saved him, and then went back to the master, who then killed him. No more evidence, no more story.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a cat in Space Wars to Kill. Let's go to the brother about.
Yeah, so I was talking to some brethren recently, and I was saying to them that this young black on black crime in London, England, here amongst our own people, Streatham, Brookston, Tooting, in our local communities, yeah. And I said to myself that when a young man is young, coming up, 15, 16, 17, the young men are naturally wild cubs in their heart, and they need to exercise themselves and see what they're capable of and do all sorts of things. That's what young people do. Before, when we used to have all the different groups, like the skinheads and the mods and the rockabillys and all these different groups, that's how we used to exercise ourselves for these different groups. But none of these groups exist anymore, yeah, because we, the young black community, have wiped these groups out, because we're obviously second generation immigrants from Jamaica and wherever else we come from. And we've come here, and then all these different people are misbehaving, and straight away we're in the fight. But we've stumped it out now. We've wiped those people out now, and we've made them have to change the laws and stuff. Although the heart hasn't changed, because you can't legislate that, yeah? But they've changed the laws because of the way we have brought the fight to them, yeah? So now you got all the young second generation, third generation young black boys coming up, our children, yeah, coming up, and they've still got the fight in their belly. But we've already wiped out all them groups: the skinheads, the roads, the mods, the rockabillys, the teddy boys. Where are they? I don't see them. They're all wearing jeans and shirt. Yeah. So the young black boys that's got the fight in their belly now, they have to fight amongst themselves because all these other groups are gone.
Yeah.
Understand? Yeah.
I'll put back on that.
Hang on. What I'm saying is, a young person has naturally got that, trying to exercise themselves and develop themselves and grow themselves. Understand? So right now, if a young man has a little offence or misunderstanding with any other person in the street now, the person's going to take out their phone and call the police, and the young man's just going to go. Yeah? But if he has any sort of misunderstanding with another young black young man, he ain't going to call the police because he's going to be ridiculed. He's going to call his cousins and his friends, and he's going to call his cousins and his friends, and that's what they want. You see me? So that's how I've analysed how this thing has happened.
I'll push back on that a little bit, because I think in terms of what they call black on black crime, which is self-racism, the term, it's not the majority of our young black boys anyway engaged in that. And I think you have to look at, again, the intervention of the state to the profiling our young people and creating an environment for our young people, because a lot of these so-called gangs, you have to also look at the so-called gangs matrix, where they had this system, the police had this system where they had all of London, 84% of the young people on there were black children. And you be on there, you could be in a so-called gang, you could know someone in the gang, or you could like a video on YouTube from a so-called gang member. But all these were criminalised as gang members.
Right.
And actually, this information was being shared far and wide against data protection. But also, again, London is the most surveilled city in the whole world. So all these things happening in public with our young people, but suddenly no one knows anything, no one can pursue anybody or whatever. So I'm clear, when people talk about black on black crime, the state and the police are heavily involved, because a lot of it is founded on drug money, and you can't bring in that amount of drugs without the state being aware and complicit in it. You want to find out where the drug situation is controlled, go to the City of London. Don't go to Peckham and Streatham. Go to the City of London to find out how that thing is being organised. And they profile our young people. They go to the pupil referral units once they kick you out of mainstream school. They profile our young people. Look at the ones who are quote unquote disaffected. That's how they do it. It's nothing natural for our young people to be involved in fighting, engaging each other to the death. Because we didn't do that. So what's changed is between us and them. We may have had fights, few of us at school. We didn't go around killing each other.
No.
What's changed?
No, I'm saying
We haven't changed. Have we put that into our young people?
We used to fight with the different white people groups. Well, they're all gone now.
I don't know who you are, but the fact is, when I was growing up, there was no the skinheads and what. They was all gone. By the time I'm sure I'm not much younger than you, if I'm younger than you. So the point is, those things weren't there. So we have to look at the imperative of the state to create havoc in our community. You have to look at people like Eaton Green and Dore Denton, who are quote unquote yarded, brought over by the Metropolitan Police to infiltrate our communities. Operation Tiberius, Operation Jackpot, all these police operations that are there really to surveil our young people. I'm not saying we ain't got work to do with our young people, but we have to be clear about the role of the state in getting young people involved in these fights to the death that benefit nobody, not even themselves. But anyway, any other...
Let's take from people who have not.
Yeah, we can.
Listen, tell us.
Okay. My name is Precious Joy. I love books, and I've read many, many books from start to finish in my time. But a couple of years ago, I became concerned of what was going to happen to my books when I pass on. So what I've been doing is to find organization in Africa, schools, health care centers, and I've been donating my books to them. Last year I went to Ghana in November to the Library of Africa and the African Diaspora.
Started that library. That one, yeah?
Sylvia Author started that library there. So my Black History Studies collection I've donated to them. So they arrived in June, July, and I was there in November, and I did an interview with them, so that I've sent that out on WhatsApp. And it's really to inspire other people that sometimes we have a lot of assets in our homes and we're not using them. And one of the things that really drove me to do that was when I've been home to people, helping them to clear out, especially when a loved one has passed away. And a lot of those assets just end up in a skip. They're thrown away. So I had to say, because I valued my books so much and I've invested a lot of money in those books, I wanted them to go to a safe home. So I do that library now, the Library of Africa and the African Diaspora. I've done to Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, and to the Gambia. I've got a couple of projects in the Gambia that I send books to. Other people have started the charities, and I support them mainly through books. Anything that's educational. Another area that I've done is healthcare, because I've been in the holistic health practice, and also in fashion and design. So because I believe in not just giving people things, but to give them things that they themselves can use to educate themselves. I've worked with different organisations here in the UK, like someone mentioned, the 100 Black Men of London. I used to volunteer with them. But we've also got other organisations. Handra Mohammed, he runs, it used to be the West Side Young Leaders Academy. Now they've got the Lewisham Academy. We've got Manhood Academy, the Womanhood Academy, the Black Parents Association. They all support our young people, and those are organisations I've been involved with. Now, I'm not rich, but I've decided that I'm going to share whatever little I have now. It's going to be less for the taxman to take when we're gone, right? So I'm making sure that I'm passing on. So half the time when I buy a book, I'll buy two, because I'm going to read it and then I'm going to donate them. So my children are not going to have that problem. Oh, what are we going to do with mom's books? And people are always telling me crazy, well, you buy all these books, but I read them. And that's how I've educated myself. You know, and I encourage people to do that. As you talk about the book, I used to have book circles in my home. Right? Because I say to people, I'm not going to sit down and wait for anybody to teach me Black History Studies in school. And then I've gone out, I've done the courses. But one of the best courses I've ever done, or a line of study, is in African-centered psychology. That is a must. We've got to get to grips with that, to understand psychology from our own perspective.
Beautiful.
Because Eurocentric psychology was not written for us, by us. And a lot of times I find personally it does more harm than good.
That's brilliant, sister. I'm really impressed. And that point about the books, that you actually read the books from start to finish.
Yes,
and
I do.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And your last point there about black psychology, I think that's really important. That's another dimension of racism, which is in volume 2. I've got a chapter called "The Psychology of Racial Oppression," because that's a whole new dynamic as well. But it's something we need to look at. But that's impressive. That's really good.
But there are a few people now doing courses in the UK. I did a course during lockdown. It was brilliant. 18 months with Dr. Erica McInnes. She's been in the United States and she studied with the Association of Black Psychologists there. She's back and she started a course there. And there are a couple of other organizations now realizing the importance of introducing or working with psychology from an African-centered perspective.
Amazing.
Can I say something quite important? Particularly with...
One more.
Sorry.
Everybody has suave spoken. You speak up.
I'm just taking it all in, really. chance upon one of your YouTube videos.
Which one was
a week
that?
or so ago. Well, I just watched it.
Yes. The reason I asked, brothers, because I'm not technical minded, so I have quite a lot of help doing things. So it's like, new to me, YouTube clips and everything. So yeah, that's good. It's good. So it's good to know that's working.
Yeah, I noticed that that you were having this event, so I thought, I'll be in London, today, so
Wonderful.
to come.
Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate that.
This
I wanted to ask, do you touch on religion in your book and how religion's kind of used to kind of control black people? I know it's like a loaded question.
No,
A
it's
lot
a
of
good
people don't
question.
want.
It's a good question. It's in volume 1. It's called African Composite Religion. And of course, yes, racism in Christianity. Racism in Christianity. And those two go together. Was that
amazing?
Which one did we... Yeah, that was initially one chapter, and then he split it into two. So that we've got the two chapters there. We've got racism in Christianity, and we've got African composite religion. So it's there, absolutely there.
now explain to the sister.
Yeah. Do you cover trauma as well? Psychological trauma?
I don't deal directly with it in the book, but as I said, in volume 2, I've got the chapter already, but there's lots of new stuff on the psychology of racism that's come out in the last 10 years. So I don't deal directly with trauma, but in volume 2 there is a chapter, the psychology of racism. But look, I do believe that you can suppress the pressure of being in a racist society with the knowledge, because knowledge is vibration. If you have the knowledge of who you are, you can defend yourself. Sometimes we're so defenseless. We just
Sorry, because not only defend yourself, but you can start to heal yourself, because healing is very, very important.
Absolutely, absolutely important.
But
only in my book, I don't recommend most of the self-help books. I've got a chapter in there. I know I'm going to annoy a few black people, but it had to be done. It's called Self-Help Books, Snake Oil, Anti-Black Development. And I go into the fact that many self-help books are toxic for black people. Having read at least 30 of them myself, and I used to think, this book is about developing the person. What person? You see, what person? Why are you making assumptions that the European mind is fit for your mind? You see, when you go to the psychiatrist, if you go to a psychiatrist, he or she lays you down on the couch and discusses your history of where you're from, what you did last, to eke out your problems. You go to yourself. You don't discuss the psychology of someone else. So it's really important that we have our own psychology, that we understand that we have our own psychology, and we've got to go to there. Our history is not the same as European history.
Well, the saying for that is you don't discuss your malaria with the mosquito.
Yeah.
When are you planning to publish your second volume and the third volume? Do you have a specific date?
I'm getting different views about that. Some people say I should bring it straight out, regardless of how that one's received. Other people say that really I should wait until that's circulated in the black community, find out, how people view it. I mean, some people in the United States have bought this book, which is great. I'm impressed. So some people say give it time, and plus I'm trying to build my people don't know me really. I'm very open. Once you meet me, I can tell you what I'm about. I mean, I think some people they could do 100 lectures and you won't know anything about them. But I mean, I'm very open, but I still think people don't know me. They don't know enough about me. So that's all part of it as well. All right. And I think Elder said to me when he read the book, he said, where did you come from? Or something like that, wasn't it? You come from, what was the word term you used? where have you come from? Where did you come from?
I come
Suddenly,
from nowhere.
I'm going to read a book, so I give myself time.
there was more in it, but I took chapters out. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put it into a smaller book, but because I wanted the
I like that
text
size.
to be nice and visual and small paragraphs, there's
Yeah.
nothing. If you're not an avid reader, the last thing you want are long paragraphs. And if you just look at that page, look.
Yeah.
Oh, it's small though.
Oh, no, well, it's small from there, but if you... no, but if I had bigger text, it would have to be the size of this penning book. So that's the problem.
What I do, I use a stopwatch.
Yeah.
I set it for half an hour and depends how much pages I read when I.
Yeah, the font is quite big. I went out of my way to work the font. The font is quite big. Yeah.
Big, and the text flows very nicely as well. So I think you'll end up reading more than you think.
Edited multiple times in the language after what you do. So it's smooth. It's really smooth.
Brothers and sisters, very good things.
Table and me to go.
Long day.
Not bad. It's a long day. I went to another event in Brixton.
Just
Oh, system, brother. Yeah, we're on not now. So if we can have order.
All of us appreciate the contribution by Brother Hall because he's coming from a line of writers who have written and different race. Edith Fuller, First Wilson, Bimbani, Amos Wilson, and the list goes on. Yes. But the information that our brother brings, after looking at all that has been done before, was extremely valuable. And this handbook needs to be in our hands, to our brain, and for a rethink in terms of the action that we need to take as people to get us out of this situation to find ourselves in. So, appreciation for the effort to come here this evening. Our environment is not in the best of shape. We're working to make it better. And we can only do that in a collective effort. We cannot go back and complain. Look how the place stand. Blah, blah, blah. We don't achieve anything like that. But understanding where we are and what we need to do to get to where we are. That's a challenge that faces all of us. So, these expo run until the end of March. This book you see here is an incredible book. Our brother sitting in front of us, I've looked through it to get pictures. And price is normally £175. And we have a special offer at £95.
I got one. I've got a book. Beautiful.
One of my friends' families in here as well.
If any one of you would spend more than £50 and over, you get a free raffle entry and you'll be drawn on the last Sunday in this March. Should have been drawn in February, but the take-up has been so weak, we have to extend it. But whatever the situation is, come the last Sunday in March, this will be up. So the expo is Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is 12 until 7. Sunday is 12 until 6.
That's here?
Yes.
Okay.
So we ask everybody and sister to spread the word, tell someone. And now we have enough of this. 1995, Bob Howard is willing to sign up.
Personalize it.
Yeah, more than happy to do that for you.
So again, all of us express appreciation for the hard work. And the beauty about Brother Howard is not that he's done thorough research, they come up with some serious analysis, but he's a teacher by profession.
They structured it, how he's put it together. May I just add to that it's an interesting read. I've bought my one here, and it's less than the price of a meal, and with what's in there, you're more than being fed.
You mentioned something about our website.
Yes, my website is www.theracismhandbook, and also
Right upstairs.
Keep this one for me till I come back.
right. I'll give that again. Right, www.theracismhandbook.com, and also www.youtube/Black Cannon Press. All right, that's the publisher. That's my little publishing house, Black Cannon Press. There. Where's the logo that someone designed for me? There's the logo. All right, so that's on YouTube, and I've got some videos up there as well.
The Black Can. That's your.
That's the publishing of these books.
Would you give that YouTube link from the website?
If you just go to YouTube and punch in Black Cannon Press, you'll see my channel there, right? And it's called Black Cannon Press, and I've got interviews and talks on this book. I break the book down into chunks. There's little interviews here and there, and things that people have asked and so on. It's on the
Is the
website.
Black Cannon Press publishing also other authors?
We are absolutely. That's a possibility in the future, without a doubt. At the moment, it's a situation where I'm just publishing my own books. But of course, I want to develop. Why not? Absolutely.
Because I sort of thought when you mentioned Black Canon that was sort of a range of authors and thinkers that
Not yet,
a lot
not
of people
yet.
should really be
For the future.
understand.
It's a term that. Thank you.
Understanding of
Right. I use the term Black Canon to say the canon of knowledge.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't wake up in the morning and all the knowledge was in my head, and I studied the Black Canon. So I thought that's a good term, the Black Canon, our epistemology. You see, so that's the term to get me through the chapters that I had to research. I did about 35 years of just studying race and racism, but then when I started this book, I thought, well, I'm going to have to really study other things. You see, I'm going to have to study Christianity more and African spiritualities. I had to do other things because Black Studies has multiple disciplines. But my immediate focus is race and racism.
That's sort of like the cold, because obviously us in the West are sort of like the cold face, like in some respects. So it's just dealing with the racism in sort of societies like these. Is that sort of is this sort of the handbook for that sort of interface?
Absolutely. This book, it will deal with how to deal with racism. That's what it's about. Yeah, because it's going to take you through race, what race is, what racism is, and through the understanding, you'll know how to deal with it. It will give you key ideas as well. At the back of the book, there's also what I call adapted rules of racial communication.
But it's interesting you mentioned because you're a teacher and your background, because I have conversations with people, but that's not my. I can't teach people, so so it's tricky. So it's good that someone with your background puts the information.
Is that your first book?
That can teach people.
Was that your first book?
It is my first book. There are, as I said, there's volume 2 is there and volume 3 is there, but it's a question of when to bring it out. There is a book of poems as well, post-colonial poems, and there is a book on whiteness. I did study. When you study whiteness, you're studying colonialism with white people at the centre. So it's not a study on what food and culture that white people have, but it's a study of white privilege and how that impacts on the lives of black people. So I got a book on whiteness as well. But it's just a question of when to bring these out. But essentially, this is a black studies guide. So if you studied this book and you wanted to go to university, you'd be ahead of the game, all right? Because that's what it is. And we're going to have another volume as well, all right?
You have hard copies here to buy?
Of course, yeah. He's got that whole... He's got the lot. I haven't got any money because of Elder Peppercorn.
Okay, finally, want to give...
Yep.
Part of we have the author and the editor together. I have to give them a lot of respect for the contribution he's made.
Absolutely. Yeah, for some of you that didn't hear, who didn't come at the top at the start, when you write a book, if you go into a white publisher, they'll give you an editor. Crucial aspect of writing a book, you need an editor. If you didn't do it without an editor, I take my hat off to you, but I couldn't do it without it. Even if someone just looks through it and just take you through it and just say, look, I think you should do, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Why are you saying this? Why are you not saying that? And this is what Olutunji did. And he's a busy man as well, and I'm very grateful because what the changes that he made was crucial, absolutely crucial, because you can't see everything. You get so involved. You just can't see it. That's got to go there. Well, maybe, but why don't you think about that, or why don't you think about that?
What's the difference between an editor and a proofreader?
A proofreader is largely the grammar. I had someone to check the grammar, but that's ongoing, to check the grammar and the spelling. You get someone to do that separate. A developmental editor will say, why are you having that chapter? Don't you think you should put that source in? And things like that, you see? And perhaps that chapter should be split into two, that sort of stuff, which, you just can't... An academic book like that. And look, I was trying to be academic and simplified. That's moderation, all right? I'm telling you, to be academic and simple at the same time, it's very hard to do. I knew I could do it, because I'm a teacher, I know how to do it, but it just meant you have to really think about how to do it, you see? The font size, paragraphing, what to say, and so on. And my final point, at the back of the book, you have what is called the adaptive rules of racial communication from day to day, how we deal with the other person in society, how to speak about things that happen in our life, how to deal with racism. It's all at the back of the book. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget, if you spend £50 and over, you have a free entry.
What about dealing with people who suffer from internal racism?
It's all in there. It's all in there. All in there.
Very good.
Thank you so much.